I've just finished reading a book, The Power of Habit by Mr. Charles, I believe it's Duhigg, or Doug, it's pronounced. Fantastic book. I would 100% recommend it to absolutely anybody who wants to learn about habits and really how they form and how they take shape. From a psychology student's perspective, I was very, very happy with this book, especially because a lot of the things it does refer to. Here's the thing, it refers to things like, dopamine and the reward system. So anyone who knows the basics of psychology is like, okay, this is on point. However, if you've never taken a psychology class before in your life, it breaks down the elements so much that it's like, oh, like this actually, this makes sense. This isn't crazy. This is understandable stuff. And basically, my friends, the biggest takeaways of this book were this. So it first starts talking about, okay, listen, what is a habit exactly? So a habit is this thing that you do, and Tony Robbins is super big on habits, right? These decisions that are made in our subconscious without us even being aware of it. It can be anything from biting our nails to going for a cigarette, whatever it may be. So this is like, okay, listen, the way that a habit is formed is you have a certain behavior, and for whatever reason, it falls into something that you repeat over and over and over again. Now, the routine that it gives you is this. This is the formula for a habit. You have the cue, you have the routine, you have the reward. Let's play this out. The cue is you feel stressed at work. Your boss yells at you. You go, Jesus. Your routine is you go for a smoke. You take a smoke. The reward is it's a good feeling. So the reward for smoking a cigarette is cigarettes are known as stimulants. So what will happen is it'll activate your central nervous system. It'll speed it up. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel hyper. And basically that. It'll reward you with the hormone of dopamine, which makes you feel really, really good. You're like, that was amazing. So what happens is next time when you get stressed, you're like, oh, I remember what made me feel good last time. You go smoke again, which is the routine, which gets you back to your reward. So that's kind of how habits develop. Now, Charles was talking about, well, if we're looking at how habits develop, how can we change a habit, right? How can we change the cue? Like, can we just not have our boss yell at us? Not really. Can we change the reward? I mean, we're kind of accustomed to it. Like neurologically, like our neurons have built these pathways. Like we want to feel that, that thing. So the thing that Charles recommends, and it's actually a psychology treatment too, is he goes, listen, don't change the cue. Don't change the reward, but change the routine. When your boss yells at you, you still want that good feeling, but don't smoke. When your boss yells at you, go out for a walk around the block or go talk to your friend for 5 minutes about what happened and see if that can give you the same reward that cigarette smoking would have given you. The hopes here is that you have the same cue, the same reward, but when you switch up the routine, it is more healthy. It is better. You prefer this routine over your previous one. So I believe, my friends, in psychology, this is called an agonist substitution. And all an agonist substitution is you go to someone, you're like, hey man, I am doing like hardcore heroin. I can't get off of it. So what they'll do is they will give you a drug that is similar to heroin, that has the same effects, but is way more minor. That is way more minor. So they'll give you maybe like opioids or like painkillers of sorts that'll bring it down. Or, let's say for, again, going back to our cigarettes example, instead of smoking cigarettes, man, drink a cup of coffee every time you gotta smoke. Why? Because they're both stimulants. They both activate that exact same area of your brain, the central nervous system. But the hope is that the coffee is just obviously lower in impact, in unhealthiness, if you will. So that's really the big thing there. So you know how habits are formed. You know how to change a habit. You got to change the routine. Now, one of the most successful and one of the most best support group therapies out there is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. For anyone who's not aware, Alcoholics Anonymous does have a tie with like religion and what sorts. You go in there, they have about an 11 or if not 12-step program. You go there and it's basically a group, just like a facility. And they talk about, okay, through these steps, we're going to give our hands, to God. He's going to help take care of you. He's going to rid you of all your sins. He's going to make you better, make you more pure, X, Y, and Z. So what the participants ended up telling the researchers was like, listen, the way that I got through this was with the help of God. I was not good enough. I knew that I couldn't do it by myself, but the Almighty God can do anything, and He helped me get through it. So the researchers are going, okay, even though that might be a suffice answer subjectively, for the scientific world, that's not going to cut it, right? We need something objective. We need something understandable, something that we can grasp. And what they really found out, now, you might have different views on this, but what they believed was the biggest factor in you quitting drinking and staying sober was belief. It was belief. It was the people who believed, who truly believed that they could become sober. The people who have trouble and not letting go are the people who have slightly doubts that are thinking, you know what, maybe I can never go without cigarettes. I can never go without a drink. I'm addicted to it. When you have that sort of a mindset, it's almost practically impossible to let go. Now, the people in AA, it was interesting because you have to have belief, but it doesn't matter belief in what. You can have belief in yourself, that you can quit. You can have belief in a higher power. The bottom line was belief. If you believe that it could be done, man, if you believe you can achieve, it's not just some BS slogan. It really sincerely works. right? Even if you say, oh, Daniel, that's stupid, so I believe I'm 6'5". No, not like that, you idiot. But go into any sport, go into an MMA fight, go into a basketball game, have one guy be like, I mean, it's going to be okay, it's going to be whatever. And the other guy's going, I believe I can win this. I really think I can win this. And he's that determination. Man, 50% of winning the game, 50% of winning the fight is believing that you can win the fight. Show me LeBron, or rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, before a game saying, I don't think I'm going to win this one. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go my way. Yeah, probably going to take an L here. Like, no, man, you don't. Even if you have the slice for it, you're never going to say that out loud, right? You know, you ever look at a fighter when he's giving a fighting interview before the fight happens, and the interviewer will go, well, what happens if you lose? And right before that happens, you know, the guy just cuts off because, no, I'm not even thinking that. The moment I let that thought enter my mind of what happens if I lose and all the embarrassment, man, you just get into a bad mindset. Like, losing is not an option. I'm going to go in there. And there are some guys who say, I'm going to win, I'm going to take his head off, X, Y, Z. There are other guys, man, if they're not that, you know, ambitious with their claim, they'll say, you know what, let's go see what happens. I'm going to go out there. It's going to be a fight. We'll see what happens. We'll see who drops first. But I have never in my life heard, you know, someone go, yeah, man, I'm probably going to get whooped in there. You know, yeah, I'm going to lose. I'm going to take an L, all right. You know, you don't hear that. You really, really don't. So I think, my friends, it just comes to a point where it's like, it is hugely a mindset thing. You know, it is hugely like, do you believe it? So how does a habit form? How can a habit be changed? Do you believe that you can change it? And another study was done to show that the people who wrote down, in this study, the people who wrote down their habits had a much higher chance of actually defeating them. So they know how habits were formed, right? That's the first step. You got to be aware. Secondly, you got to know how to change a habit, change the routine. Thirdly, you got to genuinely believe that it can be changed. Like, seriously, if you believe you can achieve, that is 100% real. I'm going to die on that hill. And finally, if you write it down, it'll make it that much more real of happening. There's something about, I swear, there's psychology research on this, when you can articulate it, whether verbally or written, right? Whatever it may be, there's a higher chance of it really happening. So when these people would write down, you know, what habit do they want to change? And they'd write down smoking. And they'd say, why do I want to change this habit? Because I don't like the effects that it's having on my cardio, and I don't like the constant coughing, you know, X, Y, Z. And finally, how am I going to change this habit? What is my solution going to be? The big problem with people is they go so vague on so many things, right? They're like, I want to become fit. What the hell does that mean, man? Does that mean I want to start running, become my cardio? Does it mean conditioning? Does that mean I want to have bigger shoulders? Does that mean I want to have a six-pack? You got to be really specific. And how? How are you going to do this? Right? So again, at the end there, it's, you know, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And finally, how? What's my solution? My solution is every time I want to go for a smoke, instead, I'll go for a run. When I go for a run, it'll give me that same high, and it'll feel even better than going for a smoke, and it's healthy for me. So now you believe in yourself. You know how it works. You've identified the routine and the reward and the cue. You know why you're doing it. You know what you're doing, and you know how it's going to be done. And that, my friends, is Mr. Charles's way of changing a habit. And it's brilliant, my friends. It is such a good book, such a good, fun read, because when you're reading it, you learn a lot about how habits are formed, everything that's in there. There is still a bunch of stories, my friends, in here that you're not going to believe, that I would highly, highly recommend you read, because the amount of stories that they use to illustrate what habit is, whether it's a sports team, right? And you just get into the habit of a play where you start moving subconsciously. You know where your teammates are going to be before they're there. Whether you're talking about consumer psychology, right? Knowing, you know, that people buy things out of habit, right? So you pass the milk section, you're like, oh, well, my kids always drink milk, so I might as well buy milk. And these are little things that we do. Right? So it is such a cool book, man. I would 100% recommend it for anyone who's interested in habits and any of that stuff. It is really, really an awesome read. Now, my friends,